That there has been wanton discrimination and violation of women's rights in Kenya is a fact.
The promulgation of the new constitution in 2010 brought to life gender equality and offered an array of protection to the women in our society. What we may forget is that these gains were the result of a long, sustained and at times bitter struggle by human rights activists. A struggle largely spearheaded by FIDA Kenya.
Following the Third United Nations Women's Conference held in Nairobi in 1985, Kenyan women lawyers felt the need to form an organization that would champion the rights of women in Kenya. Lillian Mwaura, the first FIDA Kenya chair, is one of those gallant pioneers.
That is the time the president of International FIDA sensitized us or told us about the objects, the noble objects of FIDA International, and we decided that we are going to have a Kenya chapter for FIDA. Our vision at that time was to see a society where there is equality and no discrimination, and I'm happy that a lot of that has been, achieved.
And so FIDA Kenya was born. Labeled and demonized by a conservative patriarchal society, FIDA operated as an affiliate of the global FIDA International Women's Rights Body, functioning from volunteer women's advocates' offices until 1993. Advocating women's rights and empowering women on personal law issues, it established a secretariat in Nairobi, from where volunteer lawyers offered legal aid to indigent women.
Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Nancy Baraza, served as FIDA chair and as an advocate who represented indigent women at the time.
They couldn't afford lawyers. They just didn't know how to access justice. And then, of course, they had all these problems of with family, family issues. Probably they wanted separations. They were looking for maintenance for their children or custody. And they just didn't know how to go about it. We were challenging the status quo in terms of the legal status of the women, in terms of the law, in terms of the economy, in terms of politics, in terms of culture. So we came there with a whole huge revolutionary thinking about the status of women in this country.
Since then, FIDA Kenya has designed programs that are geared at eliminating systemic obstacles that hinder women from enjoying their rights and freedoms. The bulk of FIDA Kenya legal aid caseload includes matters that reflect discrimination of women, especially in child maintenance, succession, violence, and land matters.
The Access to Justice program is the most vibrant of FIDA service programs. FIDA Kenya Executive Director Grace Maingi elaborates.
We have moved from just giving legal aid to actually ensuring that we access justice for women in Kenya, and even going a step further to make sure that we access justice for all Kenyans, regardless of whether they're men or women. We have broad areas that we work in, various projects. We still give legal representation to indigent women. We also now have realized that apart from being able to give legal representation, we're not able to meet the needs of women. So we decided, why don't we help these women to represent themselves in court? So we have a self-representation program that actually builds women's capacity to represent themselves in court.
Many women have managed to navigate the justice system and won cases they would have otherwise lost, thanks to the self-representation program. Umi Mwinyi managed to secure child maintenance support for her 4 children after undergoing training.
Wananiambia tu kesi ni siku fulani, ukimaliza kesi unarudi tena kwetu na tuelezea kesi imeisha vipi. FIDA walinisaidia nikapata kesi. Kwa sababu makaratasi wamenitengezea na pesa yao, wamenipelekea kotini, wamenitengezea affidavit za kusimamia kesi na pesa yao. Imenisaidia sana sana sana.
FIDA Kenya has embraced the informal justice systems and sensitized the members on human rights issues to ensure that they dispense justice fairly and expeditiously to women in their respective communities. Aska Madote was chased from her home by in-laws upon her husband's death. She was left destitute until FIDA Kenya, working with the Luo Council of Elders, intervened.
Hiyo boma yangu mimi ndio nilitengeneza, nikaanza kutoa mawe na tarimbo na isoka jembe. Mimi nilikuwa nafanya kazi. Wakati raundi hiyo, wakati watoto wangu hii ilikuwa bado kidogo. Na yeye nasema hata ukisema nini, hata ukitetemeka, hata ukifanya nini, utaama. Na mimi namwambia sio mbaya, ni mzuri tu, lakini si ungeniwachie mimi mali, mimi nyumba yangu peke yake iko, na alafu uuse mali yote pande nyingine. Yeye alifukuza mimi. Ameshafukuza mimi kwa boma. Mimi naenda kwa center. Na hiyo center mimi naenda bila kujua ati mimi nitaenda kukaa namna gani na mimi nitakaenda kuishi namna gani. Niliteseka huko kwa center mwezi mbili. Kama mimi nalala njaa, mimi naenda kuwashia watu manguo, mimi nabadilia watu, mimi natengeneza nyumba ndio nipate pesa nikule na watoto wangu. Elders na FIDA wanisaidia mimi, wanapatia mimi nyumba. Sasa hii mimi nakaa mzuri, mimi hakuna kitu mimi nasumbua mimi hapa. Hakuna.
Using a pool of over 300 volunteer women and men lawyers of goodwill, a pro bono lawyering system is in place to ease the heavy caseload at FIDA. The scheme helps deserving women in remote areas access justice. Besides legal support, FIDA clients enjoy a supportive environment in individual counseling, group therapy sessions, home visits, and the attendant psychosocial support.
A growing demand for legal aid services necessitated the establishment of FIDA Kisumu office in 1997 to serve the Western and Rift Valley regions. FIDA Mombasa Regional Office was established in 2003 and serves poor women in the entire coastal region. These offices have enabled more needy women to benefit from the services and programs offered by FIDA.
Under the Transformative Justice Program, FIDA Kenya has made tremendous contribution to the enhancement of equality and access to opportunities that women in our society and the region as a whole enjoy today.
As an institution, we have grown, we are known nationally, internationally, but we still feel the need to keep in touch with the persons at the community level. So we work with what we call community action groups. These are ordinary men and women, teachers, nurses at the community level who are able to give what we call first aid to cases that come up within their locality.
Over the years, FIDA Kenya has taken strategic leadership roles in the fight for the recognition of gender equality in all spheres of our society. Previous executive directors of FIDA reminisce on some of their struggles and achievements during their tenure.
FIDA participated at great length in terms of developing the language, most of the language that you now see in the current constitution. So our investments at the time were around how do we make sure that language is appropriate and it is inclusive in terms not just of gender but other diversities and considerations. Our advocacy work and engaging parliamentarians, I think when I look back, I think that was quite courageous and bold.
We were the voice of women, and all the other women's organizations also looked up to us to provide direction in many ways. The bills we were working on included the Family Protection Bill, which was intended to take care of cases of domestic violence, because up to this moment we don't have a law specifically dealing with those cases. There was also the Sexual Offences Act, which was enacted during my time. We also did some work around the Matrimonial Properties Bill, as well as the Marriage Bill. We provided technical input in terms of even drafting, proposing language to the bills, but also advocating and lobbying, including even going to the streets, like in the case of the Sexual Offences Act.
FIDA Kenya trains community leaders and partners with community-based organizations, sensitizing them on issues pertinent to women's rights and referring indigent women to them for assistance. Public education and programmatic interventions on discriminative issues including domestic violence, sexual abuse, female genital mutilation and other reproductive health matters are addressed in this program. FIDA Kenya employs a multiplicity of media and information dissemination formats to reach one and all.
It is still at the community level that many indigent women benefit and appreciate the services offered by FIDA Kenya. Alice Otiende remains eternally grateful to FIDA Kenya for guiding her through a messy separation, securing the custody of her only son, and enabling her pick the pieces of her life following abuse and bitter separation from her husband.
Kwa nalazimisha ile mapenzi na lazima na mimi nimekatalia. Sasa alikuwa anataka ajifanye kama anataka mtoto ndiye aniwin mimi. Sasa mimi mwenyewe akanipata kama niko kwa nyumba usiku. Akakuja na watu wa children's wakaingia wakasema mimi wewe unaishi nyumba mbaya, nyumba ya matope, mtoto anateseka. Nikamwambia mimi sijapenda mtoto wangu akae katika hii maisha. Hii maisha ni mwanamume ndiye amefanya nikaishi katika hii maisha. Mimi nilikuwa naishi vizuri, nilikuwa mimi mwanamke mzuri, hata sijui kwa nini ilifanya akaamua kuchukua kila kitu na kutoroka. Ona, singependelea hata mimi pia mtoto wangu ateseke. Kwa sababu ile nyumba nilikuwa naishi ilikuwa nyumba haina taa. Na ilikuwa nyumba ya udongo na tunalala chini. Ona. Walifuata kesi yangu watu wa FIDA, wakanisaidia nikapata mtoto wangu. Sasa niko naye huyu hapa. Anaitwa Kelvin Onyango.
While FIDA recognizes the customs and traditions of communities, the institution has been at the forefront in challenging traditions that infringe on women's rights and hinders their ability to access opportunities. Upon the death of her husband, Rose Achieng Okaka was abused, humiliated, and disinherited by her in-laws.
There's a young boy who came and said that he wanted to marry me, to remarry me. But I said no, because I belong to this man, since even if he's not there, I belong to him, dead or alive. So they even took me to assistant chiefs in Baraza. And one of them went there and said there's a prostitute in that home who claims that she's married to the later Gola, and kumbe she's not.
The intervention of FIDA, guiding her through a contested succession case, saved her home and family from forced eviction.
Succession cost a lot of money, which I did not have by that time. So they did it for me. I got a letter of administration. I got everything. Finally, I got my title deed. I'm now settled. I came back. I started now relaxing in my home and I'm now happy.
Previously shunned by conservative men, FIDA Kenya now plays host to scores of male visitors seeking assistance for their wives, daughters or sisters. Enjoying international affiliation and recognition, FIDA Kenya works with international human rights bodies to ensure that international tenets and laws on gender equality are observed and engendered into our institutions and communities. The institution has received national and international recognition as a leading defender of women's rights in Kenya. FIDA Kenya has played a special role in the reform and development of laws that recognize the rights of women. It is a keen player in the transformative justice system in Kenya, as Law Society of Kenya Secretary Apollo Mboya attests.
The whole provision in the new constitution on gender issues, we owe it very much to the work that has been done by FIDA previously. FIDA also has made tremendous contribution on several family law bills, matrimonial property bill, which FIDA is